Hello 10th graders and welcome to a new lesson in English. This time it's going to be literature. Last time we took short stories in literature. We took the oval portrait. We also took another short story, The Story of an Hour. Now we're going to go to another genre of literature, which is poetry. Okay, elements of poetry. First of all, what is poetry? It's a type of literary work in which the expression of feelings and ideas is given intensity by the use of distinctive style and rhythm. Notice if you read two lines from a poem or you read two lines from a story or any article, they're different. What makes them different is the style that a poem is written in. There generally is a certain rhythm or something that distinguishes a poem. We know that this is a poem when we read it by its style and by the way it is made to rhyme. Let's move on now to the elements of poetry. First of all, in poetry there is line break. You notice that the lines are much shorter, and now when we start reading the poems, you will notice that the lines are much shorter than a regular line you would write in a text. They are written this way for a purpose, to slow down the reader while they are reading. The next thing is called a stanza. A stanza is a group of lines in a poem, or if you want, you can say a paragraph in a poem, but the better way to say it is a group of lines in a poem. Rhyme and rhythm. We all know that some of the best poetry in the world rhymes, okay, and has a certain rhythm or beat to it. Similarity, rhyme is the similarity of sound between words, especially when these are used at the end of a line in poetry. For example, down, frown, okay? They have a certain rhyme. Okay, this brings us to rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme means the pattern of the end rhyme. There is a certain pattern that the poets used at the end of the line. Sounds are identified by letters A, B, A, B, etc. I will show you when we take a look at the poems. This is called a rhyme scheme, how the author or how the poet makes his or her poem rhyme at the end. Alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of the same letter or sound, usually a consonant, for poetic purposes. They would repeat the letter T or the letter S or the letter N in different lines. This is called alliteration, the repetition of a sound. Imagery. Imagery is using words to paint a picture using the five senses. And onomatopoeia are words that make a sound. Example, zap or pow. This is onomatopoeia. So the meaning of the word is actually its sound. I put a poster for you for those different poetry elements. Please take a look at them. Now, this brings us to the types of poetry. There's the classic poetry and there's the contemporary or the modern poetry. I'm going to start this lesson with classic poetry. Okay, and I'm specifically going to talk about the Romantic era in poetry. Remember, in short stories we talked about the movement of Romanticism, and it's the same either for short stories or for poetry. Romanticism is the name of the dominant movement in literature and other arts during the period from the 1770s to the mid-19th century. This movement came as a response to the scientific and industrial movements that were engulfing society and making it drift away from the beautiful and from the classical. There's technological innovations during that time, factories everywhere. They invented the trains, everything is becoming more modernized and drifting away from nature. So those romantics, or those belonging to the romantic era, wanted to go back to what was beautiful, namely nature, and when times when things were so much simpler. Romantic poetry, of course, is the poetry of that epoch or that period of time. In this type of poetry, poets focus on emotions, imagination, and the beauty of nature. The two poets I chose, there are many romantic poets, but the two poets I chose were Edgar Allan Poe, whose short story we read, The Oval Portrait, and then Walt Whitman, another very famous American poet, and they are two major figures in this literary movement. Edgar Allan Poe, we already talked about him. He was born on January 19, 1809 and died on October 7, 1849. He was an American writer, poet, critic, and editor, best known for evocative short stories and poems that captured the imagination and interest of readers around the world. The poem Annabel Lee, which I chose for you in this book, was written in 1849, is the last complete poem composed by him. It was his last poem. It is widely renowned as one of his most beautiful works, exploring the theme of death of a beautiful woman whom the narrator fell in love with when they were young. According to the poem, the love was so strong that even the angels envied them. Walt Whitman, the poem I chose for you, he was another American poet and essayist and journalist. His poem, you might have heard about this, "O Captain, My Captain." Of course, one of my favorite poems too. It was written after the death of the American president Abraham Lincoln, the president who abolished slavery. But we'll talk about that in more detail the next time. Now we will focus on Annabel Lee, the poem by Edgar Allan Poe. Okay, now let's move on to the poem Annabel Lee. It was many and many years ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. Okay. First of all, he was talking about something that happened a long time ago with, a maiden, an unmarried girl. Let's now take a look at the rhyme scheme, what I was talking about. The first at the end is ago. You would put A, so the rhyme here is A. Let's go to the second line. In a kingdom by the sea. Does sea rhyme with ago? No, it doesn't, so you would put B. That a maiden there lived whom you may know. Know, what does it rhyme with? It rhymes with ago, so you would write A, meaning ago and know have the same rhyme scheme. And then by the name of Annabel Lee. Notice, it was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought. Does thought rhyme with anything here? No. Let's move on. Than to love and be loved by me. Which rhyme is that? That would be C, Lee, me. So on and so forth with all the other stanzas. This here is a part of a poem, if you want a paragraph in a poem, and it's called a stanza. Let's move on to the second stanza. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs in heaven coveted her and me. Seraphs are angels. Even the angels coveted them, means they were envied, or they were the angels felt jealous of them. Third stanza, and this was the reason that long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee. So the reason for chilling, let's see what that means. So that her high-born kinsmen are relatives, high-born meaning they were aristocrats, they were of a high-class society, came and bore her away from me to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. A sepulchre is a small room or monument built of stone in which a dead person is laid or buried. So the reason for her death, according to the poet, was because the angels, even the angels, coveted them and were jealous of them. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. Notice here the repetition, the alliteration, chilling and killing. This is like an inside rhyme, not at the end. There's a rhyme even within the poem itself. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we, and neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. So he was saying that even now that she is dead, his love for her is still strong and they're not apart. For the moon never shines without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so all the night tide I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea. So he doesn't feel that she has gone away. He lies by her side near her sepulchre. He has dreams about her. He sees her bright eyes, and in her tomb by the sounding sea. So this is okay. Now let's move on to exercises related to the poem Annabel Lee. Answer the following questions about the poem. How many stanzas does the poem Annabel Lee have? How many parts? How many paragraphs, if you want? Going back to the poem, you will notice that it is made up of 6 stanzas. Okay, 6. Indicate the rhyme scheme of the first 2 stanzas in a poem. This is stanza 1. See it here. And this is stanza 2. Let's go. It was many and many years ago, we said that, in a kingdom by the sea. It's a different rhyme at the end. We're looking, of course, at the last word. That a maiden there lived, whom you may know ago, same rhyme, so this is A, by the name of Annabel Lee, B. It sounds like C. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought, no rhyming for thought, than to love and be loved by me. That would be letter B because it rhymes with C, Lee, and then you have me. I was a child and she was a child. Doesn't rhyme with anything, so that would be D. In this kingdom by the sea. C, Lee, B, me. Okay. But we loved with a love that was more than love. Nothing rhymes with that. That would be E. I and my Annabel Lee. Again, that is B. Lee, C, me, Lee, C. Okay. With a love that the winged seraphs in heaven Nothing rhymes with heaven. F, coveted her, and me. Again, that would be B. Notice the dominant rhyme is B. Okay, there is no specific pattern, but we can write a rhyme scheme here. He starts A, B, A, B, C, B, okay, and then it becomes different, but it just sounds so beautiful. So we indicated the rhyme scheme. This is how we do it. I'm going to give you poems and you have to indicate the rhyme scheme for them. Now this is what you need to do for the next time. Answer exercise A3, B, and C all on page 94 of your ebook. And I would like you to read carefully the poem "O Captain, My Captain" by Walt Whitman on page 95 of your ebook. And I will see you during the Zoom live and we will discuss all these together. Bye.